Hi, everybody. This is Pat Mashanya here. I just wanted to make a quick little video just to walk you through some of the things I've been doing in my classroom to try to make sense out of this new normal and have some learning interactions with students that were useful, helpful, and manageable for both teacher and student. A little over a month ago, when we were all wrestling with this brave new world that we're all a part of, I couldn't wrap my mind around how to bring in all the different things I have been doing in the past, whether it was flipping the classroom, using blended learning. How did I tie it together and give it one wrapper, so to speak, that the students could take and not be confused in a world already full of so many variables and changed? And then, like a bucket of megabytes, the idea of Hyperdocs kind of hit me one day as I was grappling with this at my desk. And the Hyperdoc is something you probably use. Mark has been pushing them out to us. A Hyperdoc is simply a Google Doc that has links in it. You can make it look fancy, but at the end of the day, it's simply a Google Doc that has links that route you to other things. And I've used it in the past. I've even done some sessions with some of you where we've talked about it. It can serve so many purposes, and that's really been my go-to thing for how I've been engaging with students. So I just want to walk you through 3 Hyperdocs of the several that I've pushed out for each cycle. And that way you could see some of the uses it can give and how it might be a benefit to you, maybe something you might want to explore further, or just realize it's not for me right now, but maybe down the road it's a resource I can tap into. First thing I want you to notice is that you can use a Hyperdoc to simply be the roadmap for the entire cycle of the student's work. That's what you see here. Here in this Hyperdoc, this was from the 4th cycle we had with the students. This one was called Attention in the Narrative we were studying and looking into in the writing class. So what I do at the beginning of every cycle is I push out this Hyperdoc, and that basically becomes the student's one-stop shopping experience. Everything that student needs lives and is routed through that Hyperdoc. So I'll walk you through this here. I'll have the do now, which in this case is the right now, with a link to the reading that had led up to this, a space for them to put their answer here. We even had an oracy activity. We went into breakout rooms or we went into small discussion groups, even though we were sitting in our marked seats. We had a discussion in class and on our Zoom call. And I wanted to allow the students to have a place to demonstrate their participation. So there was a place for them to record their findings and summarize their discussion. So I had evidence of their discussion, both what they were saying in rooms and with each other, and also how they were engaging non-verbally. And then we had a space for them to record notes during our closure activity where we were discussing some of the takeaways from our discussion that we had previously. And there was a place for them just to demonstrate their engagement. And then we had a setup for our asynchronous portion of the learning cycle where they had to do some learning on their own via a Nearpod, a TED Talk, and a masterclass website, and a reading they had to do, and a Flipgrid exit ticket that they had to complete as a final summary of the entire cycle. But I want you to see here is that the bells and whistle, I have colors, I have icons. It doesn't have to be fancy, or it could be a lot fancier than this. The idea I want you to see, number one, is that the Hyperdoc can be a source of stability and routine for our students because everything lives there. I have the readings, I have links, I have blended learning opportunities, I have place for them to summarize and take notes. And for both teacher and student, it's a place where each of us can engage. I can engage with the students, see that they're following the lesson, and they also have a place where all of their notes, all of their resources live. So at the very least, that's the first and great advantage of a Hyperdoc, a place where everything lives. Number two, a Hyperdoc is also a way to have evidence that students are engaging with you synchronously. All right, here is another Hyperdoc I had pushed out a few days ago on feedback. And I wanted to discuss a protocol called TAG, T-A-G, which we use when we engage in collegial discussions with another peer about writing. So once we got past the right now, I began to talk about the TAG protocol, and students were just following along and taking notes, whether it was filling in the blanks on what we were talking about. A little later on, we had a pair share activity where they were speaking to someone about a particular piece of writing and discussing how they would address it using the tag protocol. So after they spoke, they recorded their ideas here. And then when I began to talk about the mastery indicators for peer response, this was another mini lesson that I did, some direct instruction. It allowed them to create their own rubric by summarizing and synthesizing some of the materials I shared with them. So not only is a hyperdoc a place for, number one, all of the learning experiences to live, it's also a place to hold the students accountable for the instruction that's being shared. So I know that you're taking notes, that you're synthesizing material, that you're following along. All right. And then I had, a Padlet linked. I had some announcements, what they had to do on the asynchronous portion. But on this hyperdoc, I just want you to see that you can use a hyperdoc synchronously to be a place for students to follow along with the learning experiences and demonstrate that they're engaging at a high level. And finally, a hyperdoc is also a way to allow students to differentiate and do a deeper dive if need be. I started this hyperdoc today. This one was called What is an Argument, as I introduced the principles of argument writing. And we began, as we usually did, with our right now. How would you define argument in terms so simple a first grader could understand you? And then I flipped the classroom and I had them explore the topic on their own while I began to conference individually with students. In class, I did this, obviously one-on-one, speaking with students, and I did it via Zoom in a one-on-one breakout room. I created breakout rooms of one person, and I began to jump into the rooms and speak to people individually about their writing up until this point. But along the way, the hyperdoc facilitated the asynchronous learning because they had all their links to the Nearpods that I had created here, Essentials of Argument, Building an Argument. I had my exit ticket here. What did you learn? Let's come back to our first grader analogy and how would you synthesize and explain this in a way that they could comprehend the key ideas of the resource. I know it's an interesting closure activity I use. And that became how Hyperdocs not only facilitated synchronous learning, but also asynchronous interactions, which freed me up and flipped the classroom to conference with students one-on-one. And then at the end, it allowed students who were interested to do a deeper dive. I was able to just dump links and explanations to TED Talk and CK12 resources, so students that were interested could go a little further in the topic should they so desire. So this was just a brief overview into the world of hyperdocs. There's so much more we could say, there's so much more we could do, but I just wanted you to notice, given the workflow that we have here at Staten Island Tech, how hyperdocs could become that one-stop shopping experience for both you and student, how hyperdocs can facilitate synchronous learning and be a place where they can follow along, take notes, and be able to demonstrate their engagement in the in-person or synchronous activities, and also how the hyperdoc could be a place where you can flip the classroom, differentiate, and really provide asynchronous opportunities that free you up to speak to students one-on-one. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have questions, feel free to ask me, email me, fill out a support ticket for the PCT Support Center, and I'd be more than happy to help you in the wonderful world of hyperdocs going forward. Have a good day, folks. Take care.